The galaxy had long feared the Xal'Nar, a name that carried the weight of countless conquered worlds and extinguished civilizations. Their conquests were swift and brutal, leaving no room for resistance. No species had ever withstood their might. That was until Earth, a small blue planet in a seemingly insignificant corner of the universe, became the latest target. I am Captain Jarek of the Xal'Nar fleet, and it is my duty to oversee this mission. Our invasion strategy was meticulous, a quick strike to incapacitate Earth's defenses, followed by a swift assimilation of their resources. We had dispatched an armada of our most advanced warships, equipped with the latest in plasma weaponry and stealth technology. We were confident, perhaps overconfident, that Earth would be no different from the countless worlds we had conquered before. As we approached Earth's atmosphere, the initial scan revealed an interesting anomaly. Despite the seemingly primitive technology of Earth, there was an unexpected level of tactical readiness. I shrugged it off. An anomaly was just that, a blip on the radar. We initiated our descent, expecting to face minor resistance. The first strike came from a place we hadn't anticipated: a seemingly outdated missile defense system. It was ancient by our standards, but its effectiveness was undeniable. The missiles, though slow, were remarkably accurate, and several of our ships sustained damage before we could disable the source. It was a minor setback, but one that piqued my curiosity. Our forces landed in a remote area, far from major population centers, to avoid excessive collateral damage and to gauge the strength of Earth's military response. As we prepared for the first wave of ground operations, I reviewed our intelligence reports. They had indicated a primitive yet surprisingly resilient defense force. I dismissed it as typical overestimation. The initial contact was anything but expected. Instead of a well-coordinated military counterattack, we faced a ragtag collection of civilians armed with makeshift weapons and a surprising amount of tactical acumen. Their attacks were unorthodox but effective. They used the terrain to their advantage, employing guerrilla tactics that defied all our predictions. One evening, as we secured a small outpost near a remote village, I encountered something truly baffling. A group of humans had managed to infiltrate our perimeter. They didn't come with grand schemes or advanced weaponry. They were armed with simple tools and an almost reckless bravery. Yet, they caused significant disruptions to our operations, forcing us to reevaluate our approach. Among them was a young man named Thomas, who seemed to lead this resistance group. He had no formal military training, yet his strategic acumen was undeniable. His ability to exploit weaknesses in our defenses and his uncanny knack for anticipating our moves was something I had never encountered before. He was not just a leader, but a symbol of human tenacity. As days passed, our encounters with these resilient humans grew more frequent. They were not just defending their homes, they were adapting, evolving their tactics with every clash. They demonstrated a resourcefulness that went beyond mere survival. They were fighting back with an almost desperate ingenuity. I was starting to see a pattern. These humans were not as primitive as our initial assessments had suggested. They had an innate ability to improvise, to turn their limitations into strengths. It was a trait that should have been alarming, but it was also fascinating. I found myself questioning the very principles of Xal'Nar superiority. One evening, during a brief lull in the fighting, I found myself standing amidst the ruins of a recently overrun village. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant sounds of conflict. I was deep in thought when I heard a faint noise behind me. Turning quickly, I saw Thomas once again, this time without his usual group. "Why are you here?" I demanded, raising my weapon. Thomas, breathing heavily, looked at me with a mixture of defiance and exhaustion. "You want to know why we never back down? Why we never give up?" He gestured to the ruins around us. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about standing up for what's right. And no matter how many of us fall, we will always rise again." I couldn't deny the truth in his words, though I didn't understand their full meaning yet. There was something about his resolve that struck a chord within me. It was a concept that was foreign to my people, but one that seemed to define humanity. As the battle raged on, I found myself increasingly drawn to understanding this phenomenon. What drove these humans to fight with such fervor? What was it that made them so resilient, so unyielding? I was determined to find out, even if it meant challenging everything I had been taught about the Xal'Nar's invincibility. And so, the invasion continued, but with each passing day, my perspective shifted. The humans were not merely obstacles to be overcome, they were a puzzle to be solved, a testament to a quality we had never before encountered. The galaxy had always whispered about the mysterious strength of humanity, but until now, it had been a whisper drowned out by the clamor of conquest. Little did we know that this whisper would soon become a roar that would echo through the stars. The days turned into weeks, and our initial expectations were shattered. The humans, despite their apparent technological disadvantage, continued to resist with a tenacity that was both puzzling and admirable. We had anticipated a swift victory, but Earth's defenders were proving to be far more formidable than any species we had faced before. The turning point came when we intercepted a transmission that revealed a deeper layer to the human resistance. It wasn't just about fighting back. There was a well-organized network operating behind the scenes, coordinating efforts across various fronts. This network, known as the Alliance of the Free, was a coalition of disparate groups, each with its own unique strengths and resources. One evening, during a strategic meeting with my senior officers, I presented our findings. "We are facing more than just a disorganized militia," I said, projecting the intercepted data onto the holographic display. "The Alliance of the Free is a sophisticated network with a clear command structure. Their ability to coordinate attacks and resupply their forces is far beyond what we initially estimated." My chief strategist, Commander Torak, frowned as he studied the display. "This is unexpected. Their organization is impressive, but their technology is still inferior to ours. We can crush them if we focus our efforts." I nodded, though my mind was preoccupied with the humans' unexpected resilience. "We need to adapt our strategy. Underestimating their capability was a mistake we cannot afford to repeat." Our new approach involved a two-pronged strategy, increasing our direct assaults to force the humans into a defensive position, while simultaneously launching covert operations to disrupt their command network. The goal was to destabilize the Alliance and force a surrender. However, the humans' response was immediate and effective. They countered our direct assaults with an array of unconventional tactics. One day, as I surveyed the battlefield from a command post, I witnessed an audacious operation that left me astonished. A small group of human operatives infiltrated one of our high-security installations. They used a combination of primitive tools and advanced hacking techniques to bypass our defenses. The operation was swift and precise, resulting in the sabotage of several critical systems before they retreated. The damage was substantial, causing delays in our operations and further complicating our efforts. It became increasingly clear that the humans were not merely fighting to survive, they were fighting to win. Their ability to turn the tide of battle with seemingly minor actions was something we had not anticipated. The more I learned about them, the more I realized that their strength lay not in their technology, but in their spirit. As the weeks wore on, my interactions with Thomas became more frequent. He continued to defy our expectations, emerging in places we least expected. Each encounter left me with more questions than answers. His ability to inspire his comrades and lead them with such conviction was a testament to the human spirit. One night, as we clashed once again, I found myself face to face with Thomas. The battle was intense, but our confrontation was personal. I managed to corner him in a ruined building, his usual band of fighters nowhere to be seen. "You're persistent, I'll give you that," I said, leveling my weapon at him. "But persistence alone won't save you." Thomas, bruised and exhausted, met my gaze with a mixture of defiance and determination. "You don't get it, do you? It's not about saving ourselves. It's about making sure you understand that we're not going to be pushed around. We fight because it's who we are." His words struck a chord, resonating in a way I couldn't fully comprehend. What drove them to fight so fiercely, to endure so much? It was a question that gnawed at my mind, one that I couldn't shake off even as the battle continued. Our strategic adjustments had made some headway, but the humans were always one step ahead. They adapted quickly, turning our own tactics against us. Every victory we claimed seemed to come at a higher cost, and the longer the conflict dragged on, the more I began to question the true nature of our invasion. It was clear that this was no ordinary conquest. We were not merely fighting a war. We were confronting a fundamental challenge to our understanding of power and resilience. The humans' ability to persist in the face of overwhelming odds was a quality that defied our comprehension. One evening, as I reviewed the latest battle reports, I found myself reflecting on the nature of our mission. The humans were not just a challenge, they were a revelation. They were teaching us something we had never learned before, a lesson about the power of the human spirit. As the conflict raged on, I knew that our invasion was no longer just a military campaign. It was a journey into the heart of what it meant to be human, and it was one that would leave a lasting impact on the galaxy. Our strategy of crushing the human resistance with relentless assaults was met with mixed results. The humans' unexpected resilience continued to frustrate our efforts. Their ability to adapt and innovate seemed almost boundless. It wasn't just their tactics that were changing. Their entire approach to the war was evolving. In response to our covert operations, the Alliance of the Free had begun implementing countermeasures that were both ingenious and resourceful. They started using false intelligence to mislead us, setting traps that forced us into strategic blunders. One such trap led to the destruction of one of our major supply depots, a significant setback that further complicated our plans. Amidst the chaos, Thomas's leadership became even more apparent. His ability to rally disparate groups and turn them into an effective fighting force was impressive. I began to wonder if he was more than just a leader. Perhaps he was a symbol of something greater, something fundamental to the human spirit. One particularly grueling day, as I surveyed the battlefield from the command center, I received an unexpected report. A reconnaissance team had discovered an abandoned research facility deep within the mountains. The facility's data indicated the presence of an old, experimental technology that had been lost to time. Curiosity piqued, I decided to investigate personally. The journey to the facility was arduous. We navigated through treacherous terrain, avoiding detection from the human forces that roamed the area. When we finally arrived, the facility was a relic of a bygone era, its corridors cloaked in dust and shadow. Inside, we found remnants of advanced technology, something that seemed out of place given its age. The technology appeared to be a precursor to some of our own innovations, hinting at a level of sophistication that was surprising for its time. As I examined the data, a troubling realization dawned on me. This technology could potentially level the playing field, giving the humans an edge we hadn't anticipated. However, before I could fully analyze the implications, we encountered unexpected resistance. A small team of human operatives had managed to track us to the facility. They were armed with a mix of salvaged and improvised weaponry, yet their determination and skill were evident. The ensuing skirmish was intense, and while we managed to fend them off, it was a reminder of the humans' relentless drive. Back at the command center, I reviewed the data we had recovered from the facility. It contained schematics for a device that could disrupt our communications and navigation systems. If the humans were able to activate it, it could severely impair our operational capabilities. It was a potential game changer. Determined to prevent this, we launched a targeted strike to secure the facility and neutralize any further threats. The operation was successful, but it came at a cost. The humans' counterattacks became more aggressive, their tactics more unpredictable. It was clear that they were no longer just reacting to our moves. They were actively shaping the battlefield. Despite the setbacks, my fascination with humanity continued to grow. I began to see beyond the immediate conflict and into the nature of our adversaries. The humans' resilience was not just a matter of military strategy. It was a fundamental aspect of their character. They were fighting not just to survive, but to preserve something precious, a way of life, a sense of purpose. In a rare moment of introspection, I found myself in a conversation with one of my officers, Commander Torak. We were discussing the latest developments when he asked, What do you make of this, Jarek? These humans, they're different from any species we've encountered. I looked out over the battlefield, the distant sounds of conflict, a reminder of the ongoing struggle. They are different. Their spirit, their drive, it's unlike anything we've seen. They fight with a conviction that transcends mere survival. It's as if their very essence is tied to their ability to persevere. Torak nodded thoughtfully. It's as if their will is their greatest weapon. It's something we can't easily quantify or overcome. His words resonated with me. The human strength lay not in their technology, but in their unwavering determination. They had shown us that true resilience was more than a strategic advantage. It was a fundamental force that could alter the course of any conflict. As the battle raged on, I knew that our mission was evolving. We were no longer just facing a challenge. We were confronting a fundamental truth about humanity. The question was no longer whether we could defeat them, but whether we could understand and respect their indomitable spirit. The more I learned, the more I realized that this conflict was about more than just conquest. It was about recognizing and coming to terms with a quality that was both alien and familiar, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. The situation on Earth was becoming increasingly complex. The Alliance of the Free was no longer just a nuisance. They had become a formidable adversary with an uncanny ability to adapt and counter our every move. Each day brought new surprises and challenges, and our once straightforward invasion was transforming into an intricate and unpredictable struggle. As our forces continued to clash with the human resistance, I found myself increasingly engrossed in understanding the nature of our conflict. The data we had recovered from the abandoned facility had revealed the potential for a game-changing technology, and I was determined to uncover its full implications. One evening, while poring over the schematics, I received an urgent message from one of our forward units. The message was terse and alarming. A coordinated human offensive was underway, targeting our main supply lines. The timing was impeccable. The humans had managed to exploit a critical vulnerability in our defenses. The offensive was swift and devastating. Human forces, using a combination of guerrilla tactics and salvage technology, succeeded in breaching our supply lines and disrupting our logistical operations. The resulting chaos was unprecedented. We scrambled to regain control, but the damage was significant, and our ability to sustain the invasion was compromised. In the midst of the turmoil, I received a personal communication from Thomas. The message was both defiant and intriguing. "We're not just fighting for our survival," he said. "We're fighting for the future. You might not understand it now, but we're showing you why we never back down." His words were a challenge, a reminder that our struggle was not just a clash of forces, but a contest of wills. The humans were fighting not just for victory, but for their very essence, their way of life. It was a perspective that was difficult to grasp, but impossible to ignore. As I reviewed our options, I decided to take a more direct approach. I arranged a high-level meeting with my senior officers to reassess our strategy. We needed to adapt quickly or risk losing the initiative entirely. During the meeting, Commander Torak presented a proposal for a decisive strike aimed at crippling the human command structure. The plan was ambitious, a simultaneous assault on several key human bases, designed to disorient and fragment their forces. It was a bold move, but one that we hoped would turn the tide in our favor. We executed the plan with precision. The simultaneous strikes were intense, overwhelming the human defenders and causing significant disruption. For a brief moment, it seemed as if we had regained the upper hand. However, the humans' response was swift and coordinated, a testament to their resilience and organizational skill. In the aftermath of the assault, I found myself reflecting on the nature of the conflict. The humans' ability to endure and adapt was not just a tactical advantage, it was a fundamental aspect of their identity. They had shown an uncanny ability to turn adversity into opportunity, to fight back with an intensity that defied explanation. One night, as I wandered through the remnants of a recently overrun base, I encountered Thomas once again. He was alone, surveying the damage with a mixture of sorrow and determination. The sight of him, standing amidst the ruins, was a stark reminder of the stakes involved. "You keep coming back," I said, approaching him cautiously. "Why?" Thomas looked up, his expression a blend of weariness and resolve. "Because we have to. We fight not just to survive, but to ensure that our way of life endures. It's not just about this battle or that victory. It's about a future where we can live freely and on our own terms." His words resonated deeply. I had always viewed our mission as a straightforward conquest, a means to assert our dominance. But the humans' perspective was forcing me to reevaluate everything I had believed. Their fight was not just about survival. It was about preserving something fundamental, a vision of a future that was uniquely their own. As the conflict continued, I found myself increasingly conflicted. The humans' resilience had become a source of fascination and respect. They had challenged our understanding of power and strength, forcing us to confront our own limitations and assumptions. The question of why the galaxy had never dared to challenge humanity was becoming clearer. It was not just about military might or technological superiority. It was about an intrinsic quality that made humans uniquely formidable. Their ability to endure, to adapt, and to fight for their future was a testament to a strength that was both profound and humbling. The conflict was far from over, but I knew that the encounter with humanity had already changed me. The galaxy might have once feared the Xal'Nar, but we were now facing a challenge that transcended our previous understanding of power and resilience. The true nature of our conflict was no longer just about conquest. It was about recognizing and respecting the indomitable spirit of humanity. The conflict on Earth had escalated into a series of intense and highly detailed engagements. Each battle was a testament to the strategic ingenuity and tenacity of both sides. Our efforts to gain the upper hand were continually thwarted by the humans' remarkable adaptability and determination. One of the most critical engagements occurred in the city of New Haven, a major urban center that had become a focal point of resistance. We had identified it as a key node in the human supply chain and launched a full-scale assault aimed at capturing the city and disrupting their logistics. Our initial strike was overwhelming. Using a combination of aerial bombardments and ground assaults, we aimed to crush any organized resistance quickly. Our forces, equipped with advanced weaponry and tactical drones, advanced through the city's outskirts with precision. The human defenders, initially caught off guard, were pushed back into the city's core. However, the humans were far from defeated. They employed a series of clever tactics to mitigate the damage. They utilized the city's infrastructure to their advantage, setting up barricades and using the dense urban environment to launch guerrilla attacks. Snipers positioned on rooftops picked off our soldiers with deadly accuracy, while improvised explosive devices were planted in key locations to disrupt our advance. One notable skirmish occurred in the heart of the city, in a district that had been converted into a fortified stronghold by the human forces. The area was a maze of barricades and makeshift defenses, making it a formidable challenge. Our forces attempted to breach the stronghold using heavy armor and siege equipment, but the humans had prepared for such an assault. The battle raged for hours. Human engineers had rigged buildings with traps and explosives, creating a deadly environment for our troops. Every advance was met with fierce resistance, and the urban warfare was grueling. We managed to secure several key positions, but struggled to maintain control as the humans launched counterattacks with a ferocity that defied expectation. In one particularly intense moment, our forces encountered a human counteroffensive led by Thomas himself. His presence on the battlefield was a symbol of the humans' resilience. He coordinated the counterattacks with precision, using a mix of hit-and-run tactics and psychological warfare to unsettle our troops. His leadership was evident in the way he inspired his forces, turning what could have been a desperate defense into a highly effective counterstrike. Despite our technological superiority, the humans' ability to adapt and respond was remarkable. They were not only fighting to hold their ground, but were also constantly innovating new tactics and strategies. This was exemplified in their use of guerrilla warfare and unconventional tactics, which made every battle unpredictable. The tide of battle on Earth had shifted once again. The humans, despite suffering setbacks and enduring hardships, continued to fight with a resolve that was both awe-inspiring and perplexing. Our strategic strikes had caused significant disruption, but the humans' ability to rebound and adapt was proving to be an ongoing challenge. In a strategic briefing, Commander Torak presented the latest intelligence. The humans are regrouping and fortifying their positions. Their response to our recent assaults has been surprisingly effective. They're utilizing a combination of guerrilla tactics and advanced technology to counter our moves. I nodded, my thoughts occupied with the implications of our ongoing conflict. The humans' adaptability was evident, but what was driving their relentless perseverance? It was a question that had become increasingly important as our invasion progressed. As part of our revised strategy, we decided to conduct a series of targeted operations aimed at disrupting human supply chains and communication networks. The goal was to force them into a defensive posture, making it easier for us to secure key objectives. During one of these operations, we encountered an unexpected obstacle. A small team of human operatives, led by Thomas, managed to intercept and neutralize one of our key units. Their ability to execute such precision strikes, even in the face of overwhelming odds, was both impressive and alarming. The confrontation with Thomas left me with more questions than answers. His leadership and tactical acumen were evident, but what drove him and his comrades to such extremes? It was clear that the humans were not merely fighting for survival. They were fighting for something far greater. One evening, as I reviewed the latest battle reports, I was interrupted by a communication from Thomas. He had requested a parley, a rare and unexpected move in the midst of conflict. Intrigued, I agreed to the meeting, hoping to gain further insight into the human perspective. The meeting took place in a neutral zone, far from the front lines. Thomas arrived with a small contingent, his demeanor calm and composed. We faced each other across a makeshift table, the tension between us palpable. "You've fought well," Thomas began, his voice steady. "But there's something you need to understand. This isn't just a battle for us. It's a fight for our future. We're not just defending our homes. We're fighting to ensure that our way of life endures." His words were a stark reminder of the stakes involved. The human struggle was not merely about territory or resources. It was about preserving a vision of the future. It was a perspective that transcended the immediate conflict, adding depth to our understanding of their resistance. "Why do you keep coming back?" Thomas asked, his gaze unwavering. "What drives you to continue this fight?" I considered his question carefully. "We are driven by a mission, a goal to assert our dominance and secure our place in the galaxy. But your resistance has forced us to confront a fundamental truth. Your resilience is not just a tactical challenge. It's a testament to a quality we have underestimated." Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "And that quality is what makes us human. We fight not just with weapons, but with a conviction that goes beyond survival. It's what drives us to endure and adapt, even when the odds are against us." The conversation was a revelation. The human strength lay not in their technology or tactics, but in their unyielding spirit. It was a lesson that transcended the immediate conflict, offering a deeper understanding of what it meant to be human. As the meeting concluded, Thomas extended a gesture of respect, a rare and unexpected move in the midst of warfare. It was a reminder that, despite our differences, there was a shared humanity that connected us all. Returning to our command center, I found myself reflecting on the nature of our conflict. The humans had shown us a new perspective on resilience and strength. Their ability to fight for their future, to endure and adapt, was a quality that defied our previous understanding. The battles continued, each one a testament to the enduring strength of humanity. Our operations remained relentless, but the humans' resilience was a constant reminder of the fundamental challenge we faced. The conflict was no longer just about conquest. It was about recognizing and respecting the indomitable spirit of those we had underestimated. As we moved forward, I knew that the encounter with humanity had changed our understanding of power and resilience. The galaxy might have once feared the Xal'Nar, but we were now facing a challenge that transcended our previous experiences. The true nature of our conflict was a journey into the heart of what it meant to be human, a lesson that would leave a lasting impact on the galaxy. One notable example was their use of stolen Xal'Nar technology. During an engagement in the outskirts of New Haven, human forces managed to capture and reverse engineer several of our advanced weapons. They used this technology against us, turning our own tools into formidable weapons of resistance. The situation became a high-stakes game of technological one-upmanship, with each side constantly trying to outpace the other. As the battle for New Haven dragged on, we were forced to reconsider our strategy. The humans' ability to adapt and counter our moves was pushing us to our limits. We needed to change our approach or risk losing the city entirely. In a shift of strategy, we decided to focus on disrupting the humans' supply lines and communication networks. We launched a series of precision strikes aimed at cutting off their access to critical resources. The goal was to force them into a defensive posture, making it easier to capture key objectives. The new strategy was initially successful. Our operations caused significant disruption, and human forces were forced to focus on defending their supply lines rather than launching counterattacks. However, the humans' resilience was once again evident. They quickly adapted to the new tactics, implementing makeshift solutions to mitigate the damage. In the midst of this strategic shift, I received a communication from our intelligence division. They had uncovered plans for a major human counteroffensive, targeting one of our key supply depots. The operation was set to be a coordinated strike, involving multiple human factions working together. The counteroffensive was executed with remarkable precision. The human forces managed to breach our defenses and inflict significant damage. The attack was a stark reminder of the humans' ability to coordinate and execute complex operations, even in the face of adversity. As I reviewed the aftermath of the battle, I was struck by the humans' ability to turn the tide of conflict through sheer determination and ingenuity. Each engagement was a testament to their resilience, and our inability to fully subdue them was a constant reminder of the strength of their spirit. The battles on Earth were far from over, and the conflict was evolving in ways we had not anticipated. The humans' adaptability and determination had become a central aspect of our struggle, challenging our understanding of power and resilience. The true nature of our conflict was not just about military might, but about recognizing and respecting the indomitable spirit of humanity. As the battles continued, it became increasingly clear that our attempts to subdue humanity were leading to unforeseen consequences. The humans' ability to rebound from setbacks and innovate in the face of adversity was challenging every assumption we had about warfare and dominance. One particularly harrowing engagement occurred in the heavily fortified region of the Grand Canyon, now a bastion of human resistance. The area had been transformed into a labyrinth of defenses, with natural formations utilized to create a nearly impenetrable stronghold. Our forces were tasked with breaching this fortress to gain control over a critical energy source hidden within the canyon. We initiated the assault with a combination of aerial bombardments and ground invasions. Our forces advanced through the rugged terrain, facing both natural obstacles and human-made defenses. The humans had turned the canyon into a fortress, with fortified positions on the cliffs and tunnels beneath the surface. The initial phase of the assault was met with fierce resistance. Human defenders, armed with scavenged weapons and improvised fortifications, launched a relentless defense. Our troops struggled to maintain a foothold as we were met with a hail of gunfire and strategically placed explosives. The battle reached a peak when our forces attempted to storm one of the key bunkers embedded into the canyon walls. The human defenders had rigged the entrance with a series of traps, including proximity mines and incendiary devices. Each step forward was met with an explosive response, creating a hazardous environment that challenged our advance. Amidst the chaos, a breakthrough occurred when we managed to disable one of the key defensive positions. However, the victory was short-lived. The humans had anticipated our move and executed a counteroffensive, utilizing hidden tunnels to launch a surprise attack on our rear positions. The maneuver was executed with precision, catching our forces off guard and forcing us into a desperate fight to hold our ground. Thomas, once again, played a pivotal role in the defense. His leadership and tactical acumen were evident in the way he coordinated the counterattacks, rallying human forces and turning the tide of battle. His presence on the battlefield was a reminder of the formidable challenge we faced. The battle for the Grand Canyon was not just a test of military might but a showcase of human ingenuity. The canyon's natural landscape had been transformed into a defensive stronghold that leveraged every advantage it offered. The humans' ability to adapt their tactics and utilize their environment was a testament to their resilience. In the aftermath of the engagement, I found myself reflecting on the nature of our conflict. The humans' resilience and resourcefulness had become central themes of the struggle. Each battle was a reminder of their ability to endure and adapt, challenging our preconceived notions of power and dominance. Our next move was to focus on neutralizing key human leaders in an effort to destabilize their command structure. We identified several high-value targets and planned a series of precision strikes aimed at disrupting their coordination and leadership. The operation was executed with meticulous planning. We used a combination of intelligence gathered from captured human communications and surveillance to identify the locations of our targets. The strikes were swift and targeted, aiming to eliminate key figures and disrupt their command network. The results of the operation were mixed. While we succeeded in neutralizing several high-value targets, the human response was swift and effective. They managed to quickly adapt to the loss of their leaders, reorganizing their forces and continuing their resistance with renewed determination. In the wake of the operation, I received a communication from Thomas once again. He had managed to intercept one of our messages and had sent a response. His message was a mix of defiance and insight. "You've made your move, and we've adapted. This isn't just about strategy, it's about survival, and we won't back down." The message was a stark reminder of the humans' unyielding spirit. Their ability to adapt and recover from setbacks was not just a tactical advantage, it was a fundamental aspect of their identity. It was a lesson that transcended the immediate conflict, challenging our understanding of what it meant to be resilient. As the conflict continued, it became evident that our struggle was not just about military dominance, but about recognizing and respecting the intrinsic qualities that made humanity unique. The battles on Earth were a journey into the heart of what it meant to be human, a journey that was both challenging and enlightening. The fight for Earth was far from over, and the challenges ahead were formidable. But with each battle, we were gaining a deeper understanding of the true nature of our conflict. The humans had shown us a new perspective on resilience and strength, and their ability to endure and adapt was a testament to a quality that defied explanation. The Grand Canyon battle had proved to be a grueling test of both strategy and endurance. As the dust settled and the echoes of the conflict faded into the rugged terrain, our forces regrouped and reassessed. The canyon, once a symbol of human resistance, had become a stark reminder of their indomitable spirit. The losses we had incurred and the unexpected resilience of the human defenders forced us to confront a new reality. The war against humanity was not one of simple conquest, but of deep and complex engagement. Our next objective was clear: to neutralize key human infrastructure while simultaneously addressing the growing problem of human adaptability. The humans' ability to repurpose their environment and innovate on the fly had become one of their most formidable assets. To counter this, we needed to shift our approach from direct confrontation to a more nuanced strategy aimed at undermining their resources and morale. Our first major operation in this new strategy was the siege of the Titan Array, a sprawling research facility located deep within the Arctic Circle. The Titan Array was rumored to be a hub of advanced human technology, including innovations in energy production and weapons systems. Securing this facility would not only provide us with valuable intelligence, but could also disrupt the technological advancements that had been bolstering human resistance. The approach to the Titan Array was fraught with challenges. The Arctic environment posed significant logistical difficulties, with extreme temperatures and treacherous terrain making it difficult for our forces to maneuver. Additionally, the facility was heavily fortified, with multiple layers of defense designed to repel any assault. Our initial reconnaissance revealed a complex network of defensive measures, including automated turrets, energy shields, and an intricate web of sensor arrays. The human defenders had clearly anticipated an attack and had prepared their defenses accordingly. To overcome these obstacles, we devised a multi-phase assault plan that involved a combination of electronic warfare, psychological operations, and brute force. The first phase of the assault involved a coordinated electronic warfare operation aimed at disabling the facility's defenses. Our cyber units deployed a series of advanced viruses designed to infiltrate and compromise the Titan Array's computer systems. The goal was to disrupt their communication networks, disable automated defenses, and create openings for our ground forces. The electronic disruption operation was executed with precision. We managed to penetrate the facility's networks and cause significant disruptions. Automated turrets and sensor arrays were temporarily disabled, creating a window of opportunity for our forces to advance. However, the humans' response was swift. They quickly detected the intrusion and initiated countermeasures to restore their systems. Within hours, the facility's defenses were back online, and the humans had begun to mount a counteroffensive. With the electronic disruption creating initial successes, we moved to the second phase of our assault, psychological warfare. Our goal was to undermine the morale of the human defenders and create a sense of fear and uncertainty. We launched a series of targeted broadcasts and propaganda operations designed to sow discord and create internal conflicts among the defenders. The psychological warfare campaign was met with a mixed response. While some of the human defenders were visibly unsettled by the broadcasts, others rallied around the threat, using it as motivation to reinforce their defenses. The psychological tactics had some impact, but were not as effective as we had hoped. The humans' ability to maintain cohesion and focus under pressure was evident. The final phase of the assault was a full-scale ground invasion. With the electronic and psychological operations having achieved limited success, we committed our forces to a direct assault on the Titan Array. The ground invasion involved a coordinated attack on multiple fronts, with heavy armor and infantry units advancing towards the facility. The battle was intense and brutal. The humans' defenses, though temporarily compromised, were formidable. The facility's energy shields and automated turrets created a deadly environment for our troops. The defenders fought with a tenacity that defied our expectations, using every advantage at their disposal to repel our assault. Amidst the chaos, our forces encountered a particularly fierce resistance led by a human officer named Jackson. His leadership was evident in the way he organized the defense, directing troops and deploying countermeasures with precision. Jackson's ability to adapt to the evolving battlefield and inspire his comrades was a testament to the human spirit. The ground assault continued for several days, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The fighting was relentless, and progress was slow. Despite our technological superiority, the humans' resilience and resourcefulness were evident in every engagement. During the siege, a critical turning point occurred when our forces managed to breach one of the facility's inner sanctums. Inside, we discovered a hidden research lab dedicated to advanced energy and weapon technologies. The lab contained several prototypes that could potentially alter the balance of power in our favor. The discovery of the lab was a significant victory, but it was short-lived. As we began to secure the area, the humans launched a desperate counteroffensive. Thomas, along with Jackson and other key figures, led a coordinated attack aimed at retaking the facility and reclaiming their technological assets. The ensuing battle was a desperate struggle, with both sides fighting fiercely for control of the lab. The humans, fueled by their determination to protect their technological advancements, launched a series of aggressive attacks. Their efforts were successful in pushing us back and forcing us to withdraw from the facility. The retreat from the Titan Array was a sobering experience. We had suffered significant losses and had failed to secure the critical technology we sought. The humans' ability to adapt and mount a successful counteroffensive was a reminder of their formidable resilience. In the aftermath of the siege, I found myself reflecting on the nature of our conflict. The battles we fought were not just tests of military strength, but also explorations of the human spirit. The resilience, adaptability, and determination of the humans had challenged our understanding of power and dominance. The Titan Array battle had revealed new dimensions of the human struggle. Their ability to protect their technological assets and rally in the face of adversity was a testament to their indomitable spirit. Each engagement was a reminder of the complex nature of our conflict and the evolving challenge of facing humanity. As we regrouped and prepared for the next phase of our campaign, the lessons learned from the Titan Array battle were clear. The humans' resilience was not just a tactical challenge, but a fundamental aspect of their identity. Their ability to endure and adapt in the face of overwhelming odds was a quality that transcended conventional notions of power. The conflict on Earth was far from over, and the challenges ahead were formidable. But with each battle, we gained a deeper understanding of the true nature of our struggle. The humans had shown us a new perspective on resilience and strength, and their ability to continue fighting despite setbacks was a testament to a quality that defied explanation. The Titan Array siege had altered the trajectory of the war in ways we hadn't fully anticipated. As the battle's aftermath settled, our forces were reeling, but humanity, fueled by a fierce resilience, was seizing the opportunity. Their counteroffensive, known as Operation Phoenix, had begun, and we were about to face a determined adversary unlike any we had encountered before. It began in Denver, a city that had once been a strategic asset for us. The humans, now reinvigorated by their victory and the technological treasures they had safeguarded, were preparing to reclaim lost ground. Their approach was as methodical as it was relentless. Jackson, the human officer whose tenacity had previously thwarted our plans, had risen to a commanding role. He was orchestrating the counteroffensive with a precision that spoke volumes of his leadership. Under his command, the humans launched a series of coordinated assaults to retake key positions. Our forces, still disoriented from the Titan Array's siege, faced a series of synchronized attacks. From the air, human fighters darted through the sky, evading our defenses with remarkable agility. On the ground, their infantry moved with purpose, exploiting every weakness in our positions. The humans had transformed the urban landscape into a deadly battlefield, and we found ourselves struggling to maintain control. In the heart of Denver, the fight reached its climax. The city, once a bustling hub of logistics and industry, had become a fortress. Human defenders, using scavenged weapons and repurposed technology, turned the city's infrastructure into a series of strongholds. We advanced through the crumbling streets, but every step was met with fierce resistance. The battle's turning point came when we attempted to breach one of the human strongholds within Denver. We had anticipated some resistance, but were unprepared for the technological advancements that awaited us. The humans had deployed energy shields and advanced weaponry that were beyond our initial expectations. Their new technology was a game changer. Inside the stronghold, the clash of advanced weaponry and armored forces created a spectacle of light and sound. Energy beams sliced through the air, while our forces tried to adapt to the new threat. The humans' tactical use of their technological edge became clear as they neutralized our advances with strategic precision. The Great Lakes region became the next focal point of their technological might. Here, human forces had established a defensive perimeter, fortified with the latest innovations from the Titan Array. The sight was impressive, towering energy shields shimmering with a protective glow and weapon systems that crackled with raw power. Our engagement there was fierce. We had expected a tough fight, but the humans' technological enhancements elevated the conflict to new heights. Their defensive capabilities seemed almost insurmountable, and our attempts to breach their perimeter were met with a relentless counterattack. Each assault was met with a formidable response, demonstrating the humans' mastery over their newly acquired technology. Realizing the shift in momentum, the humans launched their strategic counteroffensive. They had identified and targeted our supply lines, striking with precision to disrupt our logistical operations. The operation was as calculated as it was devastating. In the Midwest, our primary supply depot became the focus of a determined assault. The humans, employing guerrilla tactics and advanced weaponry, executed their strike with clinical efficiency. They had learned from previous engagements and applied their knowledge to disrupt our operations effectively. The attack on the depot was chaotic and fierce. Human forces, utilizing stolen Xal'Nar technology, breached our defenses and created havoc within the facility. Explosions rocked the depot, and fires raged as critical supplies were destroyed. The loss was significant, both in terms of resources and morale. As the humans continued their counteroffensive, I received a communication from Thomas, the same strategist who had previously sent us a defiant message. His words were not just taunts but insights into the human resolve. "You underestimated us," the message read. "We've adapted, and we're not backing down. This is our fight, and we're ready." The success of Operation Phoenix was a testament to the humans' capacity for resilience and innovation. Their ability to reclaim territory and disrupt our operations had reshaped the conflict, challenging our preconceived notions of power and strategy. In Denver, the city that had once symbolized our dominance now stood as a testament to human resilience. The humans had turned their home turf into an impenetrable fortress, forcing us to reevaluate our approach. The battles that followed were marked by their ability to adapt and innovate, leveraging every advantage they could muster. As we regrouped and reassessed our strategy, it became evident that the conflict was evolving. The humans had demonstrated an exceptional capacity for adaptation, transforming their technological gains into strategic advantages. Our next moves had to account for this new reality, focusing on reinforcing our positions and addressing the advanced technologies now in play. The renewed human resistance and their effective use of technology marked a pivotal moment in the war. Their determination and adaptability were not just obstacles but revelations. The fight for Earth was far from over, and the challenges ahead were formidable. But with each engagement, we gained a deeper understanding of the complex nature of our struggle. The conflict with humanity had become more than a battle of might. It was a test of strategic ingenuity and adaptability. As we prepared for the next phase, the lessons learned from Operation Phoenix would guide our approach. The humans had shown us a new perspective on resilience, and their ability to continue fighting despite setbacks was a testament to their enduring spirit. The chaos of the Titan array had hardly settled before humanity seized the opportunity to launch their counteroffensive. Their Operation Phoenix was more than just a strategy, it was a relentless drive to reclaim what had been lost. Our strongholds, once symbols of our dominance, were now the focus of their unwavering advance. It was early morning when the first signs of trouble appeared in Denver, our North American fortress. The city, a sprawling hub fortified with the latest technology, was vital to our control over the continent. Yet, as the sun began to rise, so did the realization that our defenses were crumbling. Jackson, the human officer known for his tactical brilliance, led the assault. His approach was methodical, striking where our defenses were weakest. The humans had infiltrated our perimeter using advanced stealth technology, an advantage we hadn't fully anticipated. The first explosion shattered the calm, followed by a cascade of chaos as our automated defenses failed to respond. Inside the city, our forces scrambled to react. The humans' precision was chilling. They struck at key infrastructure, disabling our power grids and communication lines with ruthless efficiency. The streets, once filled with the hum of machinery and the buzz of security drones, now echoed with the sounds of battle explosions, gunfire, and the desperate cries of soldiers. Jackson's troops moved like a well-oiled machine, pushing through the city with a relentless pace. Each corner of Denver became a battleground, with human forces systematically dismantling our defenses. By nightfall, the once formidable stronghold had fallen into human hands. The city, now a symbol of their triumph, marked a turning point in their campaign. The loss of Denver was a severe blow, but the humans' advance didn't stop there. Their next target was Outpost 42, a crucial installation nestled in the Arctic's frozen expanse. Outpost 42 was designed to be a fortress, a bastion against any threat from the north. Yet, the harsh environment did little to slow the human assault. In the bitter cold, human forces adapted quickly. They arrived clad in specialized cold weather gear, their movements swift despite the freezing temperatures. The initial skirmishes were disorienting. Our troops, accustomed to the harsh conditions, found themselves struggling to counter the humans' tactics. The assault began with a series of guerrilla strikes. Human soldiers used the icy terrain to their advantage, launching attacks from hidden positions and disrupting our supply lines. Our attempts to mount a defense were met with fierce resistance. The humans' precision strikes and advanced technology turned the frozen wasteland into a deadly battleground. As the days wore on, the situation grew increasingly dire. The humans' ability to adapt to the Arctic environment was impressive. They breached our outer walls and moved steadily towards the core of the outpost. Inside, the atmosphere was one of frantic desperation as we tried to defend our position. Despite our best efforts, the humans overran our defenses, and Outpost 42 was reduced to smoldering ruins. The destruction of this key installation severely compromised our operational reach in the Arctic. The final and most devastating blow came with the fall of Fortress Alpha, our most heavily fortified stronghold on the west coast. Situated in the Pacific Northwest, Fortress Alpha was meant to be the linchpin of our control over the region. Its defenses were designed to withstand a sustained assault, but the humans had grown adept at overcoming such barriers. The assault on Fortress Alpha was a spectacle of destruction. Human forces launched a series of coordinated attacks, employing both conventional and advanced weaponry. Precision-guided munitions struck with pinpoint accuracy, dismantling our defenses and creating breaches in our walls. Inside the fortress, tension was palpable. Our soldiers, aware of the fortress's significance, fought fiercely to repel the attack. However, the humans were relentless. Their leader, Commander Richard, orchestrated the assault with a combination of tactical brilliance and sheer determination. Under his command, the human forces executed a series of decisive maneuvers, exploiting every weakness in our defenses. The battle for Fortress Alpha was intense and chaotic. The humans pressed forward with an unyielding assault, their tactics combining brute force with strategic precision. Despite our attempts to reinforce our position, the humans breached our inner defenses. The final stages of the battle saw a brutal close-quarters fight, with the humans systematically clearing our defenses and seizing control of the fortress. The collapse of Fortress Alpha marked a significant turning point in the conflict. The stronghold's fall was not just a loss of territory, but a severe blow to our strategic capabilities. The humans had once again demonstrated their ability to adapt and strike effectively, turning what was once a symbol of our dominance into a symbol of their victory. The destruction of Denver, Outpost 42, and Fortress Alpha underscored the humans' remarkable capacity for resilience and adaptability. Their success in targeting and dismantling key positions revealed a depth of tactical and strategic insight that had reshaped the conflict. In each engagement, the humans had demonstrated a relentless drive and a capacity for innovation. Their ability to adapt their tactics to different environments and leverage advanced technologies was evident in their victories. As we assessed the damage and prepared for the next phase of the conflict, it was clear that the struggle was far from over. The battles had shown that humanity was not merely enduring but evolving. Their persistence and strategic acumen posed a formidable challenge, and the path forward would require a reassessment of our tactics and strategies. The fight for Earth had entered a new phase, one marked by uncertainty and the need for continued adaptation. As we prepared for what lay ahead, the lessons learned from the recent engagements would be crucial in shaping our next steps. The smoke from the battlefields of Denver, Outpost 42, and Fortress Alpha still hung heavy in the air. The humans' tenacity and strategic prowess had upended our plans, forcing us into a reactive stance. With our strongholds reduced to ruins, our leadership convened for a critical strategy session. In the dimly lit conference room of our remaining command center, the atmosphere was tense. High Command gathered around a large holographic table displaying the latest intelligence reports. General Zarin, our commanding officer, looked particularly troubled as he addressed the room. "We've lost Denver, Outpost 42, and Fortress Alpha," General Zarin began, his voice heavy with frustration. These were not just tactical positions. They were key elements of our control over North America and the Arctic. Admiral Norin, one of our top strategists, nodded gravely. The humans have proven themselves to be far more adaptive than we anticipated. Their use of advanced technology and guerrilla tactics is disrupting our operations on multiple fronts. Dr. Kren, our chief scientist, chimed in. Their technology is evolving faster than we can adapt. The EMP devices, the environmental adaptations, they're making it increasingly difficult to maintain any semblance of control. Then what do we do? Asked Commander Rax, our ground operations leader. Our remaining positions are vulnerable, and their advances are relentless. General Zarin leaned forward, eyes narrowing. We need to reassess our approach. We can no longer rely on static defenses. We must become more agile and adaptive. It's time we consider direct engagement with their command structures. Admiral Norin's eyes brightened. A targeted strike at their leadership might disrupt their coordination. If we can break their command chain, it could turn the tide in our favor. Meanwhile, the human forces were not idle. Jackson, having led the successful assaults, was now strategizing the next phase of their campaign. He gathered his team in a makeshift briefing room set up in a repurposed building. "All right, listen up," Jackson said, his voice brimming with determination. "We've done well so far, but we can't afford to slow down. We need to capitalize on our recent successes and push forward." Michael, one of his key officers, nodded. "Our victory in Denver was a major boost, but the fall of Outpost 42 and Fortress Alpha have created new opportunities. We need to strike while the iron is hot." "Agreed," said Sarah, a tech specialist. "We've intercepted some communications from their high command. They're planning a counter-offensive, and they're more desperate than ever. This could be our chance to hit them where it hurts." Jackson looked at his team, his expression resolute. "Our next target is their remaining strongholds. We need to disrupt their remaining positions and prevent them from regrouping. We'll need precision strikes and effective use of our new technologies." "Do we have any leads on their plans?" Michael asked. Sarah tapped a few keys on her tablet. "Yes, we've managed to decrypt some of their transmissions. They're focusing on reinforcing their positions and preparing for another large-scale assault. If we act quickly, we can undermine their efforts and force them into a more vulnerable position." With the new plan in place, the human forces prepared for their next assault. The target was a Xal'Nar stronghold located in the Midwest, a key position that had remained relatively untouched. As the operation commenced, Jackson and his team executed their plan with precision. The stronghold, nestled in a heavily fortified area, was initially quiet. But as the human forces approached, the silence was shattered by a series of coordinated attacks. Michael led a squad through a covert entry point, while Sarah's team deployed electronic warfare equipment to disable the stronghold's defenses. Inside the stronghold, the atmosphere was tense. Commander Rax, who had been leading the defense, watched with concern as the humans launched their assault. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Veller. "We've got a problem," Veller said urgently. "The humans are using new tactics. Their stealth technology and EMP devices are disrupting our systems." Commander Rax gritted his teeth. "We need to counter their advance. Mobilize our reserve units and activate the secondary defenses. We can't let them breach the inner sanctum." As the humans pressed their attack, Jackson's team worked tirelessly to dismantle the stronghold's defenses. Their precision strikes were relentless, and the Xal'Nar forces struggled to keep up. Jackson's voice came over the comms. "Michael, how's the breach coming?" Jackson asked, his tone focused. "Almost there," Michael replied, firing a burst from his weapon. "We're making progress, but they're putting up a strong fight. We need to get those secondary defenses down before we can secure the core." "Understood," Jackson said. "Sarah, any updates on their communication systems?" Sarah's voice crackled through the comms. "We've managed to disable most of their secure channels. They're in disarray, but we need to move fast. If we can secure the command center, we can force a surrender." As the battle raged, the humans continued to push forward. Inside the stronghold, Commander Rax and his forces fought valiantly to hold their ground. Despite their best efforts, the humans' relentless assault began to break through. Jackson and Michael, working in tandem, breached the final defenses and made their way to the command center. The room was a flurry of activity, with Xal'Nar officers scrambling to coordinate their defense. "Rax, you're outnumbered," Jackson called out as he entered the command center. "Surrender now, and we'll ensure your safety. Resist, and we'll take no prisoners." Commander Rax, looking both exhausted and defiant, glared at Jackson. "You may have taken our stronghold, but this war is far from over. We'll fight to the last." Jackson shook his head. "You've lost too much. The tide has turned. Surrender now, and it might just save lives." Rax hesitated, weighing his options. Finally, with a weary sigh, he nodded. "Fine. We'll surrender. But this isn't the end. We'll regroup and find another way." The fall of the stronghold marked a significant victory for the humans. The capture of Commander Rax and the destruction of a key position demonstrated their ability to strike decisively and disrupt our plans. As the humans secured their victory, Jackson gathered his team for a brief moment of reflection. "We've made significant progress," Jackson said, his voice filled with a mixture of satisfaction and resolve. "But this is only one battle in a much larger war. We need to stay vigilant and continue pushing forward." Michael nodded in agreement. "What's the next move?" Jackson looked at his team, determination etched in his features. "We'll keep pressing. The more we can disrupt their operations, the closer we get to turning the tide in our favor." The destruction of the Xal'Nar stronghold and the capture of key personnel had reshaped the conflict yet again. The humans had shown that their resilience and strategic adaptability were formidable, and their continued success forced us to reconsider our approach. As we prepared for the next phase of the conflict, it was evident that the struggle for Earth was far from over. The humans had demonstrated their capacity for innovation and persistence, and the battles ahead would require even greater ingenuity and determination. In the wake of their victories at Denver, Outpost 42, and Fortress Alpha, the human forces continued their relentless advance. The capture of key Xal'Nar strongholds provided them not only with strategic gains, but also valuable intelligence. With each victory, they pushed deeper into alien territory, capturing several high-ranking Xal'Nar officers and scientists. The human command had established a secure facility in the remnants of an old military base. The captured Xal'Nar were held in a series of well-guarded containment cells, each designed to neutralize any potential threats. These cells were equipped with the latest in containment technology, rendering the Xal'Nar unable to use their advanced abilities to escape. Commander Rax, one of the most prominent captures, was held in a particularly secure cell. The room was stark, with reinforced walls and a single, unadorned table in the center. The atmosphere was tense as the human interrogators prepared for their sessions with him. Jackson, who had become the face of human strategy, stood with his arms folded in front of the cell. Beside him was Dr. Sarah, the tech specialist, who had been instrumental in deciphering alien technology and communications. The two exchanged a glance before Jackson spoke. "We need to get as much information as possible from Rax," Jackson said, his voice firm. "He knows the layout of their remaining forces and their strategic plans." Dr. Sarah nodded. "I've set up a secure link to our analysis system. We'll be able to cross-check any information he provides with our existing data." Inside the cell, Commander Rax sat on a metal bench, his demeanor a mix of defiance and resignation. His once proud uniform was now dirty and disheveled. As Jackson and Dr. Sarah entered, Rax looked up with a steely gaze. "Commander Rax," Jackson began, his tone measured. "We're here to discuss your cooperation. You're in a precarious situation, and the information you provide could significantly influence the outcome of this war." Rax remained silent for a moment before speaking. "You think I'll betray my own? The Xal'Nar are not easily swayed by threats. We will fight until the end." Dr. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. Your resistance is admirable, but it won't change the fact that you're at a disadvantage. If you cooperate, we can ensure that your surrender is handled with respect. Otherwise, you'll face harsher conditions. Rax's eyes narrowed. What do you want to know? Jackson and Dr. Sarah took turns questioning Rax, focusing on the Xal'Nar's remaining strongholds, their command structure, and any critical weaknesses. The interrogation was intense, with each question designed to probe for valuable information. What are your remaining strongholds? Jackson asked, his tone insistent. Where are your key defensive positions? Rax remained defiant, but after several hours of questioning, he began to reveal snippets of information. Our forces are regrouping in several locations. The most fortified are in the southern regions, where we've established new defensive perimeters. But you'll never break through without significant losses. Dr. Sarah leaned in, using a datapad to cross-reference his answers. What about your command structure? Who's in charge of coordinating the defenses? Rax hesitated before answering. General Zorath is leading the remaining forces. He's a formidable strategist, and his defenses are well coordinated. You'll need to strike decisively to have any chance of success. In addition to Commander Rax, the humans had also captured Dr. Kren, one of the Xal'Nar's chief scientists. His cell was equipped with various monitoring devices to prevent any tampering with his technology. Dr. Kren, though less physically imposing than Rax, was a vital asset due to his knowledge of alien technology. His capture was a significant boon for the human forces. Jackson and Dr. Sarah took turns interrogating him, focusing on extracting information about the Xal'Nar's advanced technologies and their vulnerabilities. Dr. Kren, Jackson began, we need to understand the full extent of your technological capabilities. What are the key components of your defensive systems? Dr. Kren, initially resistant, was eventually coerced into revealing critical details. Our defenses are based on advanced energy shields and adaptive camouflage. However, there are weaknesses in the power supply lines and the control systems. Disrupting these could render our defenses ineffective. Dr. Sarah, analyzing the information, noted, this could be crucial. If we can exploit these weaknesses, it could give us a significant advantage. With the information extracted from Rax and Kren, the human command began to formulate their next move. The intelligence gathered revealed critical vulnerabilities in the Xal'Nar defenses, as well as the locations of their remaining strongholds. In the command center, Jackson and his team reviewed the data. We've got a clear picture of their remaining forces and their weaknesses, Jackson said, pointing to a holographic map displaying the updated information. Our next operation needs to be precise. We'll target their weakest points first to weaken their overall defense. Michael, another key member of the team, looked over the data. We should focus on the southern strongholds where General Zorath is located. If we can disrupt his command structure, it could cause chaos among their ranks. Dr. Sarah added, we'll also need to use the information from Dr. Kren about their technology. Disrupting their power supplies and control systems will be crucial in neutralizing their defenses. As the human forces prepared for their next assault, the mood was one of focused determination. The intelligence from their captives had provided a strategic advantage, and the upcoming operation was critical in continuing their momentum. Jackson addressed his team one last time before they set out. We've achieved a lot, but the fight is far from over. We need to execute this operation with precision and adapt to any changes on the ground. Our goal is to break their command structure and weaken their defenses. The team nodded in agreement, their resolve hardened by the challenges they had faced. The information from Rax and Kren had given them the edge they needed, and they were ready to capitalize on it. As they prepared to deploy, the weight of the upcoming battle loomed large. The human forces were poised to strike once again, armed with newfound knowledge and a renewed sense of purpose. The relentless assault by human forces had pushed the Xal'Nar to their limits. Their strongholds were crumbling, and their command structure was in disarray. With the specter of total defeat looming, The Xal'Nar leadership had no choice but to consider alternatives to the ongoing conflict. In the Human Command Center, Jackson, Michael, and Dr. Sarah were deep in discussion about their next strategic move when an unexpected communication came through. The message was from General Zorath, and it carried an urgent tone. Jackson glanced at the flickering screen with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "Looks like we've got a message from Zorath. Let's see what he has to say." As the transmission came through, General Zorath's tired face appeared on the screen. "Commander Jackson," he began, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "This is General Zorath of the Xal'Nar. I wish to discuss the possibility of diplomatic relations." Michael's eyes widened in surprise. "Diplomatic relations? After everything we've been through?" Jackson nodded thoughtfully. "It seems we've pushed them to the point where they're ready to negotiate. This could be our chance to end the conflict without further bloodshed." Dr. Sarah, already preparing to set up a secure link for the negotiations, spoke up. "We need to get more details. If they're serious, this could be the turning point we've been hoping for." The location chosen for the negotiations was a neutral, barren expanse, a place of no strategic significance, but ideal for peaceful discussions. Jackson, Dr. Sarah, and a team of negotiators arrived to find the Xal'Nar delegation already present. Their advanced technology and defensive units stood out starkly against the desolate landscape. General Zorath greeted them, his once imposing demeanor now diminished by the weight of the ongoing conflict. "Commander Jackson," he said, offering a weary handshake. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. We're here to seek a ceasefire and explore terms for peace." Jackson shook his hand, his expression a mix of caution and resolve. "General Zorath, we're willing to listen. What terms are you proposing?" Zorath's voice was measured, though his fatigue was evident. "We wish to end the hostilities. Our forces have suffered too much, and continuing this war would lead only to further devastation. We propose a ceasefire and discussions on how to achieve a lasting peace." Dr. Sarah, who had been studying the preliminary terms, interjected. "And what assurances can you provide that your forces will comply with any agreement? How can we trust this isn't just a temporary measure?" Zorath met her gaze steadily. "We are prepared to allow human observers to monitor our compliance. We will also agree to demilitarize certain regions and accept joint oversight to ensure both sides adhere to the terms." The negotiations were tense but constructive. Over several days, both sides engaged in rigorous discussions to iron out the details of the agreement. The Xal'Nar would withdraw from contested areas, and the humans would establish a security presence to monitor compliance. The Xal'Nar agreed to provide reparations for the damage inflicted during the conflict, including compensation for destroyed infrastructure and aid for rebuilding efforts. The humans would recognize the Xal'Nar's sovereignty over their remaining territories. In return, the Xal'Nar would guarantee the safety of human personnel and allow joint oversight of critical regions. A joint oversight committee would be created, with representatives from both sides, to ensure adherence to the agreement and address any potential disputes. On the final day of negotiations, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Jackson, Zorath, and their teams gathered to finalize the terms. Zorath looked at Jackson with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "If we agree to these terms, we can end this conflict and begin the process of rebuilding." Jackson nodded, a determined look on his face. "Agreed. This agreement represents a crucial step toward peace. We'll need to ensure that both sides are committed to upholding these terms." Dr. Sarah, reviewing the final details, added, "We'll establish monitoring systems to oversee the implementation of the agreement. This will help address any issues that arise and ensure compliance." With the agreement in place, the focus shifted to transitioning from conflict to diplomacy. Human and Xal'Nar forces began the complex task of withdrawing and redeploying. The once devastated territories started to show signs of recovery, thanks to the cooperative efforts of both sides. In the Human Command Center, Jackson, Michael, and Dr. Sarah reflected on their recent achievements. The mood was one of relief and cautious optimism. Michael, surveying the updated maps, remarked, "The framework we've put in place is solid. The transition will be challenging, but the agreement gives us a strong foundation." Jackson smiled, his expression a blend of satisfaction and anticipation. "We've turned a brutal conflict into an opportunity for peace. The real work starts now, but we've made significant progress." Dr. Sarah nodded in agreement. "It's a testament to the resilience and adaptability of both sides. Even under immense pressure, we've managed to achieve a diplomatic resolution." As the final agreements were implemented and rebuilding efforts began, the focus shifted from war to collaboration. The territories that had once been battlegrounds were now places of joint efforts and recovery. The diplomatic resolution marked a new chapter for both species. The conflict that had seemed insurmountable was resolved through a blend of military strategy and diplomatic negotiation. Jackson and his team looked ahead with hope and determination. The end of the war was just the beginning of a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding. The lessons learned from the conflict would shape the future of both species, guiding them toward a more peaceful coexistence. As the first signs of recovery emerged, the promise of a new era of peace and collaboration began to take root. The road ahead was still challenging, but the path was now clear. The peace agreement between the humans and the Xal'Nar had been a beacon of hope for both sides, a promise of an end to the bloodshed. Weeks had passed since the negotiations, and rebuilding efforts were well underway. Human and Xal'Nar engineers worked together to restore power grids and rebuild shattered cities. The sight of both species working side by side was once unimaginable, yet here it was, a testament to what diplomacy could achieve. But peace is fragile. Inside the human command center, the atmosphere was tense. Jackson was poring over a report from the Joint Oversight Committee when Dr. Sarah rushed in, her face tight with worry. "Jackson, we've got a problem," she said, handing him a datapad. He quickly scanned the report, his brow furrowing. "A border skirmish? I thought we had all of that locked down." Dr. Sarah shook her head. "That's what we thought. But one of the Xal'Nar's garrisons near Sector 22B never received the stand-down order. They engaged a human patrol unit that was surveying the area. The patrol didn't back down." Jackson cursed under his breath. "How bad is it?" "2 of our men are dead. The Xal'Nar lost 6. She hesitated, then added, "And their general, Zorath, is calling it a deliberate breach of the treaty." Jackson slammed the datapad onto the table. "Damn it. We can't afford this kind of mistake. Get me Zorath. We need to settle this before it spirals out of control." The secure communication channel connected to the Xal'Nar's high command, and within moments, General Zorath appeared on the screen. His usually composed face was contorted with rage. "Jackson," he began, his voice seething, "what is the meaning of this? You've broken the ceasefire. My men were attacked, unprovoked. This was an act of war." Jackson raised a hand to calm him. "Zorath, I assure you, this was not an intentional breach. There was a breakdown in communication on your side, and our patrol was." Zorath cut him off, slamming his fist onto the table on his end. "Don't you dare lay this on us, human. We honored our side of the agreement. It was your forces that violated our territory." Michael, who had been silently listening, stepped forward. "General, we lost men too. This wasn't a one-sided attack. We're both victims of a miscommunication." "A miscommunication?" Zorath spat, his voice dripping with venom. "Tell that to the families of my dead soldiers. We had a deal, and your people spat on it." Jackson kept his voice steady, though his patience was fraying. "We're willing to investigate the incident together, Zorath. Our intention is still peace, and we want to fix this before it escalates." Zorath's eyes narrowed. "You think this can be fixed with a few words? The trust has been shattered, Jackson. I've already sent word to my fleet to prepare for a full-scale mobilization. If you want war again, you'll have it." The screen went dark before Jackson could respond. For a moment, there was silence in the command center. the weight of Zorath's words hanging in the air. "We can't let this happen," Michael muttered, pacing. "We were so close." Jackson sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We need to buy time. Sarah, reach out to the diplomatic team. See if we can get a mediator involved before Zorath's forces make their move. We can't let this escalate any further." Despite Jackson's best efforts to defuse the situation, the news of the skirmish spread like wildfire across both human and Xal'Nar media outlets. The once promising peace talks were now marred by accusations and propaganda. The Xal'Nar portrayed the humans as backstabbing opportunists, while human media labeled the Xal'Nar as aggressive warmongers unable to honor their own agreements. Jackson found himself in a series of emergency meetings, trying to keep the situation from spiraling out of control. Every solution they proposed seemed to meet a new obstacle. Xal'Nar forces had already begun massing along key sectors, preparing for the worst. In a private meeting with his inner circle, Jackson voiced his frustrations. "We're walking on a knife's edge here," he said, looking at the faces around him. "One wrong move, and we're right back where we started. Worse, we'll be in an all-out war." Michael leaned forward, a grim expression on his face. "We might already be there, Jackson. Zorath's not backing down. I've seen the reports his troops are mobilizing faster than we expected." Dr. Sarah, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. "There's something we're not seeing. Zorath's reaction, it's too extreme. This was a skirmish, but he's treating it like a full-blown invasion. It doesn't make sense." Jackson frowned. "What are you suggesting?" Sarah hesitated. "What if this isn't just about the skirmish? What if there's pressure on him from his own people? If he's being forced into this, we might have a way to defuse the situation if we can find out what's really going on." Later that evening, Jackson received an encrypted message from one of their top intelligence officers, a deep cover agent embedded within the Xal'Nar ranks. The message was brief but startling. "Zorath is losing control of his government. Factions within the Xal'Nar military want war. They see the humans as weak and think now is the time to strike. Zorath's hands may be tied." The revelation hit Jackson hard. If Zorath wasn't the one pushing for war, it meant there was a deeper, more dangerous game at play. The Xal'Nar leadership was fractured, and some were willing to risk everything to topple the humans. Jackson called for an immediate meeting. "We've got a new complication," he said, relaying the spy's message to his team. Michael whistled low. "So Zorath's not the one calling the shots?" "Not entirely," Jackson replied. "But he's still the face of their military, and if these factions gain more power, we're looking at a full-blown invasion." Dr. Sarah looked thoughtful. "If we can prove to Zorath that we know about the factions, we might be able to force his hand. He won't want to be seen as losing control." Jackson nodded. "That's our next move, then. We need to expose the factions and put pressure on Zorath to regain control before it's too late." The situation was now more precarious than ever. What had begun as a mistake in communication had snowballed into a potential political collapse on the Xal'Nar side. If Jackson and his team couldn't navigate the dangerous waters of diplomacy and war, humanity would be plunged into a conflict they might not survive. The question was, could they unravel the political turmoil within the Xal'Nar before it consumed them all? The situation was unraveling faster than Jackson had anticipated. After the intelligence report from their deep cover agent, tensions between the humans and Xal'Nar factions were on the verge of erupting into full-blown war. The ceasefire that had held for weeks was now just a distant memory. Both sides were mobilizing troops, and every day brought a new skirmish or incident that pushed them closer to disaster. The news screens in the Human Command Center flashed constant updates: Xal'Nar forces amassing at strategic points, human fleets positioned defensively across contested space. Despite efforts to keep it under wraps, word of the Xal'Nar's fractured leadership had begun to leak, and now both sides were watching each other like hawks, waiting for the next move. Jackson leaned over the holographic map that displayed the various Xal'Nar strongholds and human defense lines. His team of advisors stood around him, faces etched with concern. "We're getting reports from the outer sectors," Michael said, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "The Xal'Nar have started sending recon units deeper into our territory. It's not just posturing anymore." Dr. Sarah added, "It's only a matter of time before one of these scouting parties crosses a line. And then it's all-out war. We need to act now before it escalates any further." Jackson's eyes narrowed as he studied the map. "We can't afford to sit back and react. If we keep waiting for them to make a mistake, we'll lose the initiative." His mind raced as he thought of their options. The political fractures on the Xal'Nar side provided an opportunity, but it was dangerous. Playing on internal divisions could backfire, and any direct action against one of their factions might unite them against the humans. Suddenly, a comms officer approached, visibly anxious. "Sir, we've just intercepted a transmission from the Xal'Nar fleet near the Velkar outpost. It's not encoded. They want us to hear it." "Play it," Jackson ordered. The transmission crackled to life, and a voice, deep and authoritative, spoke in the guttural tones of the Xal'Nar language. "Humans, we know what you're planning. We know you seek to divide us. But know this, we stand united against you. There will be no more games, no more diplomacy. If you wish to fight, we will oblige." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in the room. "They're baiting us," Michael said, breaking the silence. "They're daring us to make a move." Jackson nodded slowly. "And if we do, they'll spin it as proof that we've violated the ceasefire again." Dr. Sarah crossed her arms. "It's a trap, plain and simple. But we can't let them keep pushing us back without a response." Jackson stared at the map, deep in thought. He knew they were walking a fine line. One wrong move and the Xal'Nar would have all the justification they needed to launch an all-out assault. But doing nothing wasn't an option. "We need to be smarter than them," Jackson finally said. "We're not going to fall into their trap, but we're not going to let them keep pushing us around either." Michael raised an eyebrow. "What's the plan?" Jackson straightened, his voice firm. "We hit them where they don't expect it. A surgical strike on one of their vulnerable strongholds. But we make sure it's one of the rogue factions, not Zorath's main fleet. If we take out a faction that's causing internal strife, we might be able to destabilize them from within." Dr. Sarah frowned. "That's risky, Jackson. If we get caught, the entire Xal'Nar leadership could unite against us." Jackson's gaze hardened. "It's a risk we have to take." Within hours, the plan was in motion. A small, elite strike force was assembled, consisting of the best human soldiers and special ops personnel. Their target was a Xal'Nar outpost controlled by a faction that had been openly defying Zorath's command. Intelligence suggested that this faction was one of the driving forces behind the escalating tensions, pushing for war at every opportunity. The team departed under the cover of night, their stealth ships slipping through the dark void of space, undetected by Xal'Nar sensors. The mission was simple: eliminate the faction leaders and cripple their ability to operate. As they approached the outpost, the tension was palpable. Jackson, overseeing the operation from the command center, monitored the progress in real time. He could hear the chatter of the soldiers, their voices calm and professional, but there was an undercurrent of anxiety. Everyone knew what was at stake. "Team Alpha, we're in position," came the voice of Lieutenant Hale, the mission leader. "Proceed," Jackson ordered. The strike team infiltrated the outpost with precision, moving silently through the corridors, neutralizing guards and avoiding detection. The Xal'Nar Leadership Council of the rogue faction was gathered in a central chamber, discussing their next moves. Jackson's eyes were glued to the feed as the team reached the chamber's doors. Breaching in 3, 2, 1. The doors burst open, and the strike team stormed the room. Blaster fire erupted, and within moments, the Xal'Nar leaders were cut down. The mission was swift, surgical, and devastating. "Target neutralized," Hale reported. "We're extracting now." Jackson exhaled, relieved. "Good work. Get out of there and head back to base. We'll debrief when you're secure." As the team made their escape, Jackson allowed himself a moment of hope. They had struck a decisive blow against the rogue faction, and with any luck, it would create enough chaos within the Xal'Nar leadership to force them back to the negotiating table. But just as the strike team was nearing their extraction point, the unthinkable happened. Alarms blared across the outpost, and suddenly, the Xal'Nar forces were swarming. The rogue faction may have been taken out, but Zorath's loyalists had detected the intrusion and were now closing in. "Hale, what's happening?" Jackson demanded over the comms. "We've been compromised," Hale shouted, his voice strained. "They're everywhere. We need immediate extraction." Jackson's heart sank. The mission had been going perfectly, but now they were caught in the middle of a firefight. If they lost the team, it could be seen as an act of war, and everything they had worked for would be lost. "Get them out of there," he barked at the command center staff. "Send in backup if you have to." The minutes that followed were agonizing. The strike team fought their way through waves of Xal'Nar soldiers, barely keeping ahead of the reinforcements pouring into the outpost. Hale's calm demeanor had given way to raw desperation as the team was pinned down in a narrow corridor. "We're not going to make it," Hale yelled over the gunfire. Jackson clenched his fists. "You will make it. We're sending in backup now. Hold the line." But deep down, he knew the situation was dire. The strike had been successful, but now it was unraveling. If the Xal'Nar loyalists captured or killed the team, it would spark the very war they had been trying to avoid. The backup ships arrived just in time, providing cover fire as the strike team made a mad dash for the extraction point. Several soldiers had already been lost, but the survivors managed to board the ships and escape just as the Xal'Nar forces closed in. As the ships jumped to hyperspace, Jackson let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "They're safe," Michael said, relief evident in his voice. Jackson nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. The mission had succeeded, but barely. And now, with the rogue faction eliminated, the Xal'Nar leadership would be forced to respond. This was far from over. The aftermath of the mission was immediate. Within hours, Zorath's fleet broadcasted a message to all human channels. "You have crossed the line, humans," Zorath's voice boomed. "You thought you could sow chaos in our ranks, but you have only united us in our hatred for you. The war you feared is now upon you." Jackson stood before the communication screen, his face grim. The negotiations were dead. War had been declared. "We'll see about that," he muttered under his breath. Michael stepped forward. "What's the next move?" Jackson's jaw tightened. "Now we fight." The humans had pushed too far, and the Xal'Nar were no longer divided. But humanity was no stranger to impossible odds. They had fought against extinction before, and they would do it again. As Jackson began issuing orders for the coming battles, he knew this war would be unlike any other. It would be brutal, unrelenting, and would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resilience. And so, with the galaxy on the brink, the humans prepared for war once more. We thought we understood war. We thought we understood the humans, but nothing could have prepared us for the storm that was about to break. I stood on the bridge of the Vorak, our flagship, my claws tightening against the armrest as I watched the chaos unfold on the viewscreen. Human ships smaller, fewer in number darted between our vessels, and despite our vast technological superiority, they were winning. "Why are we not hitting them?" I snarled, turning to my tactical officer, Vakthar. He glanced up, his scales glistening with the sweat of panic. They keep moving. Commander, our targeting systems can't lock onto them long enough." "Find a way," I barked, "or I'll find someone who can." Vakthar swallowed hard, and I turned back to the screen, frustration boiling in my chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be on the run. After we broke through their diplomatic lies, I thought we had them cornered. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that the humans had a plan. They always had a plan. I should have seen it from the start. A voice crackled over our ship's comms. I knew that voice, the human commander. What was his name? Jackson. He'd spoken during the negotiations, calm and infuriatingly confident. Back then, I thought it was arrogance. Now I wasn't so sure. Zorath, his voice came through, cool and unyielding. You've overplayed your hand. You've invaded our space, attacked our people, and now you're going to pay the price. I bared my teeth at the screen, though he couldn't see me. Empty words, human. Your fleet is scattered. You are no match for the Xal'Nar Empire. There was a pause, then Jackson's voice came back, quieter but filled with something far more dangerous than threats. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about winning. This is about survival, and when humans fight for survival, we do whatever it takes. I scoffed and cut the transmission, though my heart pounded in my chest. I tried to dismiss the creeping sense of dread, the realization that maybe, just maybe, I had underestimated them. Then, the trap was sprung. Hundreds of human ships appeared out of nowhere, decloaking in perfect synchronization. They flanked us, their weapons charged and ready. Panic rippled through the command center as our scanners lit up with warnings, alarms blaring as the human fleet surrounded us. How are there so many? Vakthar stammered, his voice trembling. They must have hidden their ships in the asteroid belt, one of the bridge crew suggested, but it didn't matter. The how wasn't important anymore. Raise shields, I shouted, knowing it was too late. The humans hit us hard and fast. Plasma beams sliced through the void, cutting into our ships before we could even react. Explosions rocked the fleet as ship after ship fell, torn apart by the human assault. I gripped the armrests of my command chair, my mind racing. How had it come to this? Just hours ago, we were pressing them, cornering them. Now we were the ones being hunted. They're focusing fire on our command ships, Vakthar yelled, his voice high-pitched with fear. Pull back, regroup, I started, but another blast shook the Vorak, sending sparks flying from the consoles. The ship groaned under the strain, and I could feel the panic spreading like wildfire through the crew. And then, nothing. The lights flickered, and a strange hum filled the air. I looked around, confused, as the ship's systems began to fail one by one. What's happening? I demanded, but no one had an answer. That's when I realized it. Something was wrong with the space around us. It was as if reality itself had warped, trapping us in place. Vakthar's eyes widened. Commander, it's some kind of weapon. The humans, they've disabled our warp drives. My heart sank. It was a weapon, all right, something new, something we had no defense against. Jackson had planned for this. All along, he'd known how to lure us in, how to trap us. And now we were at his mercy. Fire everything we have, I ordered, desperation creeping into my voice. If we're going to die, we'll take as many of them with us as we can. But even as our remaining ships opened fire, I knew it was hopeless. The humans had us completely surrounded, and their firepower was relentless. One by one, our ships fell, their hulls splitting apart, consumed by fire. My claws dug into the armrest as the Vorak took another hit. Status report, I barked. Shields are down to 30%. Commander, Vakthar said, his voice barely audible over the chaos. We can't take much more of this. I slammed my fist against the console. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. I had led our people into war, convinced we could crush the humans, that we could bend them to our will. But now I was watching everything slip away. Then Jackson's voice came back, colder than before. It's over, Zorath. You've lost. I didn't respond. What was there to say? He was right. I had lost. We all had. The final blow came moments later. A beam of light tore through the Vorak's hull, splitting the ship in half. Alarms blared, and the bridge was bathed in red light as systems failed all around us. I could feel the ship breaking apart, pieces of it floating into the void. Vakthar slumped in his seat, his eyes wide and vacant, and I realized he was gone. The rest of the crew had fallen silent, too, their bodies limp, either dead or unconscious from the blast. I alone remained, standing in the wreckage of my command center, staring at the human fleet that loomed outside the viewport. For a moment, I thought about trying to escape, to find some way to salvage what was left of our forces. But deep down, I knew it was too late. The humans had won. Jackson's voice filled the comms one last time. "This is what happens when you challenge us. Next time, think twice before starting a war." I closed my eyes as the final explosion consumed the Vorak, and everything went black. When I awoke, I wasn't dead. I was in a cell, cold, metallic, and stark. A human soldier stood at the door, watching me with cautious curiosity. I was alive, but the Xal'Nar Empire was gone. "You're awake," he said simply, as if we were discussing the weather. "The war's over. Your people surrendered." I looked down at my hands, still shaking. We had been so certain of our victory, so certain of our superiority. But in the end, it hadn't mattered. The humans had fought with a ferocity and determination we hadn't anticipated, and we had been broken. "Where is your commander?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Admiral Jackson," the soldier replied. "He's busy. We're in peace talks now." Peace? It felt like a cruel joke. But maybe it was all that was left. I leaned back against the cold wall of my cell and closed my eyes, haunted by the memory of our defeat. We had challenged the humans, thinking we could bend them to our will. We thought we could break them. But now I understood the truth. Humans didn't break. And that was why we never dared challenge them again. I spent days in that cell, left to brood over the course of the war and my own decisions. Time seemed to stretch out, each hour indistinguishable from the next. There were no other prisoners, at least none that I saw, and the human soldiers rarely spoke to me. I had no idea what was happening outside my small, cold world. Only the slow hum of the ship and the occasional visit from a guard reminded me I was still alive. One day, Admiral Jackson finally came. I had never met him in person. His face was far more ordinary than I had imagined a human in his middle years, with graying hair and a calm, calculating expression. There was no gloating, no smirk of triumph in his eyes. He stood on the other side of the force field separating us, hands behind his back, simply watching me. "Zorath," he said after a long silence, his voice as measured and confident as it had been during our brief transmissions in battle. I narrowed my eyes, leaning forward slightly on the metal slab that served as my bed. "So, the great Admiral Jackson finally honors me with his presence. What is this? Another reminder of your victory?" Jackson shook his head slowly. "No, I didn't come here to gloat. I came here to talk." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Talk? You want to talk? After what you've done to my people, after you tore through our fleets like they were nothing, now you want to talk?" "That's exactly why I want to talk," Jackson replied, his tone unflinching. "This war, it didn't have to happen." The audacity of his words struck me. My fists clenched in frustration. "Didn't have to happen," I snarled. "You attacked us. You set traps, destroyed our fleets. How dare you say it didn't have to happen?" Jackson's gaze didn't waver. He stood still, as if unmoved by my rage, waiting for it to subside before continuing. "You invaded our space, Commander. You attacked us first. All we did was defend ourselves, and we did what we had to in order to survive." "Survive," I repeated, my voice filled with disdain. "You call this survival? You annihilated entire fleets, wiped out thousands of my people. How is that defense?" Jackson sighed. For the first time, I saw a trace of weariness in his eyes. "War is ugly. It always is. But we weren't the ones who escalated it to this point. The Xal'Nar Empire believed we would surrender. When that didn't happen, you doubled down." I opened my mouth to protest, but the words caught in my throat. He wasn't wrong, not entirely. Our leaders had assumed that humanity would fold under pressure, that our show of force would frighten them into submission. Instead, it had driven them to fight harder, more ruthlessly than we ever expected. Jackson stepped closer to the force field, his voice softening. "I've seen too many people die in this war, human and Xal'Nar alike. It should never have come to this. That's why I've been pushing for these peace talks. Your government has finally agreed to them. Peace. The word tasted bitter. After everything we had lost, how could peace be an option now? And what, I asked, voice hoarse? You want us to simply bow to your terms? To let you dictate the future of our people? Jackson shook his head. No, we want to end this war before any more lives are lost. The terms will be fair, mutual de-escalation, withdrawal from contested systems, reparations where necessary. We don't want your destruction, Zorath. We want this to stop. His words hung in the air between us. I studied him, looking for some hint of deception, some trace of the cruelty that had led to our defeat. But all I saw was exhaustion, the kind that comes from years of fighting, from endless days of making impossible decisions. Still, my pride, my rage, kept me from giving in. You think my people will accept this, after what's happened? They already have, Jackson said quietly. Your leaders have realized that further resistance is futile. More importantly, they've realized that we never wanted this war to begin with. Futile. The word stung. Even after everything, part of me still clung to the belief that we could have won, that we could have outmaneuvered the humans if we had just been smarter, faster, stronger. But deep down, I knew the truth. We had underestimated them from the start. And now, the only thing left was to salvage what remained of our dignity. Jackson watched me, his expression softening. I know what it feels like to lose, Zorath. I've been in battles that went wrong, lost people I cared about. I know what it's like to feel like you're out of options, that surrender feels like failure. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze. His words were too close to the truth, too raw. I didn't come here to make you surrender, he continued. That decision's already been made. I came here because I wanted you to understand why. We're not your enemies. We never were. We just wanted to live, like you. I sat in silence, the weight of his words pressing down on me. The war was over. My people had lost. And now I had to decide how I would face the future. After a long moment, I looked up at him. You're a better commander than I gave you credit for, Jackson, I admitted quietly, and a better man. Jackson smiled faintly. Maybe, or maybe I'm just tired of seeing good people die. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. I'll leave you to think about it, Zorath. We'll be in touch when the talks are finalized. Until then, try to get some rest. As the door slid shut behind him, I leaned back against the cold wall of my cell, closing my eyes. The war was over, and for the first time since it had begun, I felt the weight of all that had been lost. Maybe Jackson was right. Maybe this was the only way forward. But as I sat there, the ghosts of my fallen comrades haunted me. Peace might have come, but the price had been high, and I wasn't sure if I or my people would ever truly recover. The High Council chamber was quieter than it had ever been. Representatives of the most powerful alien races across the galaxy sat in their designated seats, their luminous eyes, multifaceted orbs, and sleek appendages trained on the figure at the center of the room. Commander Zorath stood in the middle of them all, a towering figure of the Xal'Nar, one of the most formidable races in the universe. He had always been known for his unshakable resolve, his ironclad pride, but today he was different. The silence stretched on as he stared down at the data pad in his hand, his mandibles clicking together nervously. When he finally looked up, his eyes were dark, haunted by memories that no data report could ever truly convey. They are unlike anything we have faced before, Zorath began, his voice rough, but steady. Humans. A ripple of disbelief and confusion spread through the chamber. The Karyun delegate, a hulking, amphibious creature with leathery blue skin, shifted in his seat. Humans? The species from the small, blue planet? His voice carried disbelief, as if the very idea was absurd. Your empire fell. To them? Yes. Zorath's response was sharp, leaving no room for further question. I've faced countless foes across hundreds of campaigns, but I have never encountered anything like them. Explain, rumbled the Gorgax Prime. their race resembling a towering mass of stone and crystal, a slow but decisive species that measured everything in millennia. Zorath inhaled deeply, trying to gather his thoughts. The memories were vivid, too vivid, but he needed to make them understand. At first, they appeared weak. Their technology, though advanced by their own standards, was no match for the might of the Xal'Nar fleet. Our calculations were precise. By all accounts, they should have been crushed within weeks, if not days. Yet they weren't. The words came from the silent shadows, spoken by the Morven representative, whose entire race thrived in darkness, barely visible even in full light. No. Zorath's mandibles clicked together again, betraying his unease. They fought with a ferocity I have never seen before. Their strategies, they were unconventional, reckless at times. They fought as though they had nothing to lose. They threw everything they had into the battle, adapting with each defeat, learning at a rate that bordered on the terrifying. They are mere primates, the Velarach delegate scoffed, his many arms folding across his silvery, insectoid torso. Emotional, irrational creatures. That's exactly it. Zorath's voice lowered, his gaze sweeping across the council. They fought with more than just logic. They fought with passion, with desperation. Each battle, each skirmish, they treated as if their entire existence hung in the balance. "And you believe that this emotion is what makes them dangerous?" asked the Lorac ambassador, his pale, translucent skin shimmering with anxiety. "It's more than just emotion," Zorath explained, his mandibles tightening. "It's their resilience. They can lose, again and again, but they never truly lose. They return, stronger than before, more determined. The harder you push them, the more they fight back. And their ability to innovate, to change tactics in the heat of battle, it's unlike anything we've seen from species that rely solely on reason." The chamber grew quiet once more, the gravity of Zorath's words sinking in. Even the elder races, those who had conquered vast expanses of the galaxy, seemed unsettled. "The humans didn't just defeat us on the battlefield," Zorath continued, his voice now heavy with the weight of his own failure. "They forced us to rethink our very approach. Their persistence wore us down. Their adaptability outmatched our precision. They exploited every weakness, every flaw in our armor. And when they captured our key outposts, it wasn't with brute force. It was with strategy that bordered on madness. How could a race so young, so untested, break the Xal'Nar?" The question came from the Avril diplomat, a lithe, bird-like figure with a voice as sharp as her beak. Zorath looked down, his eyes darkening. "Because we underestimated them. We thought them inferior. We didn't understand that their capacity for survival is unmatched, and when we finally understood, it was too late." The chamber buzzed with hushed conversations, the representatives of each race exchanging nervous glances. The Kaorion delegate leaned forward, his deep-set eyes locking onto Zorath's. "And what of the humans now? What do they want?" Zorath paused, considering his words carefully. "They want peace," he said, surprising many of the council members. "But do not mistake their desire for peace as weakness. They have won this war, but they are not gloating. They seek to stabilize, to rebuild. But make no mistake, they are fully aware of their newfound power." The Gorgax Prime rumbled deeply, his crystalline form glowing dimly. "What, then, is your recommendation, Commander?" Zorath hesitated. His pride, his Xal'Nar blood screamed at him to recommend retaliation, to find some way to recover from this loss. But he knew better. He had faced the humans firsthand. He had seen what they were capable of. "My recommendation is this: do not challenge them again," Zorath said, his voice resolute. "Humans are not a species you can conquer. They are not bound by the same rules as the rest of us. They fight with heart, with a drive that goes beyond logic or reason. If you challenge them, they will not stop until one side is utterly destroyed." A heavy silence fell over the council. No one moved. No one spoke. "I speak not out of fear," Zorath continued, standing taller now, "but out of understanding. The Xal'Nar believed ourselves invincible, and now we are broken. The humans are the future of this galaxy, and if we are to survive, we must learn to coexist with them. The Morven delegate, always the most shadowy of the council, finally spoke again. So you advise submission, then? Zorath's mandibles twitched. No, not submission. Respect. Humans do not seek to dominate. They seek to thrive. And if we respect that, there may be a way forward without further bloodshed. The council was still for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the Gorgax Prime spoke, his deep, resonant voice filling the chamber. We will take your words under advisement, Commander Zorath. Your experiences have been enlightening. Zorath bowed his head, though the bitterness of the defeat still clung to his soul. As he turned to leave the chamber, he knew that his warnings would not be taken lightly. The galaxy had changed, and the humans, those once insignificant creatures from the far edge of the galaxy, had become the defining force of their age. As Zorath walked out of the council chambers, one thought lingered in his mind. We will never challenge the humans again, he whispered to himself. Not because we fear them, but because we now understand them. The invitation arrived in a form unlike anything humanity had ever seen. For years, humanity had dreamed of its place among the stars, of making contact with alien civilizations, of establishing itself as a power on the galactic stage. But the moment the galaxy finally reached out, it felt surreal, almost too extraordinary to believe. The message appeared above Earth, projected in massive holographic letters that could be seen from every corner of the planet, causing confusion, awe, and a wave of news coverage that spread like wildfire. The words, written in flawless English, glowed in a shimmering array of colors. The Galactic Council hereby extends an invitation to Earth and its people. You are requested to send your representatives to join us in deliberation of interstellar peace, prosperity, and unity. The world fell silent for a moment, processing what had just occurred. And then, all at once, chaos erupted. Governments scrambled to interpret the message. The media broadcasted speculation non-stop. And the people were filled with equal parts excitement and trepidation. The mysteries of the universe had come knocking on Earth's door. Can you believe it? Admiral Richard Callahan sat back in his chair, staring at the live broadcast. His office was high above the bustling streets of New York City, where people were gathered in clusters, eyes glued to the nearest screen. The message hovered in the sky above them, as if the universe itself was inviting them into a new era. That were being summoned to the galactic table, his colleague, Dr. Jonathan Reynolds, a lead physicist on Earth's interstellar exploration team, leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with excitement. It's not a question of if we go, but how we go. Callahan sighed, rubbing his temples. Diplomacy, that's how. We've been preparing for this, even if it seemed like a pipe dream. We've been thrust into the spotlight now, and the whole galaxy is watching. You're not worried? Jonathan asked, his voice lowering. We've only just begun to understand what's out there. This council, there's no telling what their true intentions are. Of course I'm worried, Callahan admitted. But we can't turn our backs on this. We either take our place at that table, or we get left behind. The diplomatic vessel, the Unity, was prepared within weeks, hastily constructed by the combined forces of Earth's most advanced engineering minds, sleek, metallic, and equipped with the finest technology humanity could muster. It would carry Earth's representatives deep into uncharted space. At its helm was none other than Captain Michael Anders, a decorated officer from the Earth Defense Fleet, known for his cool-headedness in the face of danger. Beside him was Dr. Jonathan Reynolds, tasked with being Earth's primary voice on scientific matters, and a small team of diplomats who had been carefully selected for the mission. As the Unity left Earth's orbit, silence fell upon the crew. This was a journey none of them had ever expected to take, into regions of space no human had ever set foot or eye on. But as the stars streaked past them, they knew that they were on the verge of something historic. Captain Anders, we're approaching the designated coordinates, the ship's navigator announced, her voice calm but tinged with awe. On the screen before them, a massive space station, larger than any man-made structure, came into view. It was a marvel of engineering, suspended in the void. Twisting, spiraling towers of alien design connected by bridges of light and energy, pulsing with strange, ethereal power. The Galactic Council station hung in the darkness like a beacon of civilization. Captain Anders' grip on his command chair tightened. This is it. We're not turning back now. The Unity docked at one of the station's many hangars, and the crew disembarked onto a platform surrounded by an astonishing array of alien beings. Tall, sleek figures with shimmering skin, beings that hovered above the ground, their forms wreathed in energy, others with limbs that twisted in impossible directions. Each race was unique, and each one paused to take in the sight of the humans stepping onto their station for the first time. A figure approached, one that the humans recognized from their briefings. It was an emissary of the Galactic Council, a Xal'Nar, a race that had once stood at the forefront of the galaxy's might, now a humbled member of the Council. The Xal'Nar emissary bowed slightly, its voice resonating in perfect harmony. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. The Council awaits your presence." Captain Anders exchanged a look with Dr. Reynolds before stepping forward. "Thank you for receiving us," Anders said, doing his best to project confidence. "We are honored to be here." As they were led through the station, the humans marveled at the sheer scope of the place. The architecture was otherworldly, with smooth curves and arches that defied gravity, held together by beams of light. Every now and then, they would pass an open view into space, where distant stars and planets dotted the galaxy beyond. The council chamber itself was vast, with hundreds of seats arranged in a circular fashion, each occupied by a representative of a different race. At the center of it all was a massive holographic display, showing the intricate details of the galaxy, its trade routes, its regions of control, and its many inhabited worlds. As Earth's delegation stepped into the chamber, the eyes of every being turned toward them. There was no sound, but the weight of that silence was immense. "Earth," a voice boomed across the chamber, amplified by unseen technology. The speaker was a being of indeterminate form, its body a swirling mass of energy and light. It spoke on behalf of the Council, a voice both calming and commanding. "You have been summoned here to take your place among us. We have watched your species for a long time, and now, the time has come." Captain Anders stepped forward, his voice steady. "We accept the honor of joining this council. Humanity seeks peace and cooperation with all galactic races. We are ready to contribute to the prosperity of the galaxy." The council members murmured among themselves, but the energy being silenced them with a gesture. "Peace, you say?" it intoned. "We have seen the strength of your species. We know of your wars, your resilience, your cunning. Many among us wondered whether to invite you at all, for fear of what you might bring, but we also see potential." There was a pause, and then the holographic display shifted, showing Earth. The planet, small yet vibrant, turned slowly in the vastness of space. "You have much to learn, but you also have much to offer," the voice continued. "The galaxy is filled with wonders and dangers alike. Some will welcome your presence, others will not. But if you choose to take this seat, you will become part of something greater." Captain Anders took a breath. "We understand, and we are ready." The being's form flickered slightly as it gazed upon him. "Very well, Earth, from this day forward, is a member of the Galactic Council." A chorus of voices rose in agreement, and a glowing sigil appeared above the humans, marking their acceptance. As Captain Anders looked around the chamber, he realized what this truly meant. They were no longer just citizens of Earth. They were now part of something far bigger, something vast and incomprehensible. And with that, humanity's journey among the stars truly began.